Welcome to another live stream. Wait for people to come in and then we'll start. Haven't done one in a while, so we'll see who rocks up. All right, probably get started anyway, see what happens. All right, welcome to this live stream. We're talking about the crypto contagion and how I expect it to get worse. So you've probably seen my ideas floating around talking about how we're going to move lower and how there's all these problems going on. You've probably seen that I shorted Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been shorted. We are expecting prices to go much lower. Let's start off with the BLX chart here. Let's have a good look at this on the weekly first, because actually we'll look at the daily since, well, wave one started. Wave one started, where did it start? Let's just share this properly. We mess around here. Right. All right, so here's the BLX chart for Bitcoin. And the first thing I need to talk about is how this wave one looks, right? It's the only way I can make sense of this chart. And it's a complete wave one for what's coming. So whatever started back when, you know, Bitcoin started, it's irrelevant really, because the new bull market where all the altcoins were born started in 2015. Okay, that's when they all started popping up. And ever since then, we were producing a 5-wave move. Okay, that explains this zigzag looking pattern up the top. But also there's a bit of interesting things going on in wave 4 there, which don't exactly line up with altcoins, but nonetheless, they are there, and those waves are part of Bitcoin's correction. So that funny move that you saw in the beginning for Bitcoin, that move that looked like some kind of leading pattern, all it was was a weak 5-wave move. It was actually struggling to move up. Yes, it moved up a lot. Think about how quickly it moved up previous in a correction, right? Those were pretty crazy moves in a short amount of time, right? 21,000% in that move, right? What else? What else did we have? We had 60,000% in that move. Okay, what do we have in 2015? 11,000%. So definitely losing steam as it went on. It definitely started to get weaker, but nonetheless, it started to produce a wave 1, which eventually, actually, that's kind of like a lie. It did actually go even further than that. It went to 42,000%. But it took a lot longer and it produced this 5-wave move in the end. So I suppose what I'm trying to say here is that in order for this whole move to correct down, we need to see something that's a little bit more sufficient to be counted as a correction compared to what we have seen, right, so far. If you think about what we've seen so far compared to the move up, you get something like this, right? That's all you get. And in a weak type of move like that, you will get pullbacks that are pretty extreme, right? And I suppose that's part of the point I'm trying to make here today. And it's also going to feed into a lot of the altcoins and what's going on with them, right? A lot of altcoins weren't even around until 2020, 2021, whatever. Like, what do you think is going to happen to those, right? It's like trying to get in at the top, right? You get wrecked. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to those projects, and obviously they're trying to survive off the hype, right? It's trying to survive off Bitcoin's success. I think that's where a lot of the problem lies. And we all know what happens when you get in at the top, right? It's not a good thing. It never ends well. So what's happening now is, very simply put, A, B, C, D, but what are we going to do about E? Right now, we know from experience that E waves are pretty brutal when it comes to these corrections, right? So, for example, back in this time here, 2013, November, right? That was an E wave, right? That was insanely brutal at the time, 84%, right? What do we get? The E wave from 2017 high, you know, that's again 83%, right? And you have to understand that during these times, we were talking about expanding corrections where E wave was the last move in the correction, and it was brutal, okay? Even in 2017, wave 4 was expanding, and then E wave was brutal, right? But what we have now is not an expanding correction. And on top of that, E wave will be brutal, okay? So this is something that I want to highlight here today because it needs attention. No one really talks about it because I don't think really people understand the waves that much. So for me to say, after falling already, having already fallen 74% to the bottom of wave C, am I saying that we're going to get another 80% down from where we are? Well, only wave E could do that, right? Only wave E could produce that type of thing. And as we've seen, that's something that can happen, right? So what is 84% or 80% down from where we are? Oh, we're getting there. It's around there, isn't it? 84, 80, right? But it's still back down here. And that's just for wave E, right? But then again, this is also not an expanding correction, right? It's a giant wave 2 where usually price goes back to the previous fourth wave, right? Now, normally I'd say previous fourth wave of wave 3, but because this is a weak 5-wave move, let's just say wave 4, right? So that to me is the only possible outcome that we're going to see in Bitcoin. I don't think there's anything else. A, B, C, there's, D, there's no other letters that come after D apart from E. And we are starting to see a move down. So what is this move up? Why did it turn out to be so sharp the way it did? It was, it's a pretty decent move, right? Even that little move there, what is that like percentage-wise, like 40%, 40, 50%? Given the area that it's around, right? It still hasn't moved up much 5 years later, right? Yeah, well, that's because, I've explained the pattern. You can see what caused it. And in this case, wave 1, 2, 3 was only a portion of the move, right? Up to wave 3, you had 1,700%. Right, after the little wave A, you had like 3,500%. Right, so when things start to get that big that quickly, that's really saying something. Right, so just give it a moment here. Right, so what next? Okay, so the way I see altcoins getting wrecked in this next move, I'll give you an example. Right, I'll go to the favorites soon, XLM, XRP. I'll get to those. But let's go to SHIB, for example. Right, let's go to SHIB. Now, I was looking at this before, right? And all we had this coin that came out quite recently, right? I'm pretty sure, did it come out during that time? Yeah, let me just check this out quickly. Should have been a bit more prepared, but I had to do this on the fly. So SHIB released August 2020. Okay, so this chart is obviously not doing us any favors here. No, that makes sense. So, okay, so you look at this pattern right here and you think straight away, okay, what is that, a wave 1, right? Anybody who looks at this pattern would assume, well, it's got to be wave 1 because, what else is it going to be, right? I don't know if you like SHIB or not, but the way I see this is that it's got nothing to do with a wave 1. In fact, if it was a wave 1, it's Bitcoin's wave 1, right? So therefore, I think it's timing that it came out. It's the timing of this coin when it was released that led to its success and then demise. But also, you got to try and think, well, whoever made this coin probably made a lot of money and cashed out. And if they didn't, well, they're pretty stupid, right? Because that would have been the only opportunity they had. So in seeing this as an A, B, C, D, right, you'll see that this is a common theme, the D wave, right? The D wave is definitely something that is in a lot of coins, right? Bitcoin, especially, It's in a lot of coins, and like XLM and XRP don't have this. They might have it within another pattern, but it's not exactly the same as this. So if we're looking at SHIB and it's moving the same way that Bitcoin is moving, then you've got to understand that what Bitcoin's going to do next is going to send this way below the start of this 5-wave move that you're seeing here, right? And I'll show you what I mean by that, because I've started to mark it out at the lows, right? I count this as a wave 1 with an A, B, C, D, E pattern, right? You'll notice that wave E never went back above the start of wave 1, right? So for something to be this big, you can only imagine what's coming next, right? You need to see wave 3, which in my opinion has already begun, right? This move down has already begun. I mean, you can see it, it's sharp, it's moving down. It's early days, right? But this wave 3 is going to take this way below the start of this move. And then how far do you think it's going to drop, right? Before you get to somewhere where you could say wave 3 is done. I mean, how low can you go here before the panic selling sets in and this thing goes to zero, right? I really don't see another way around it. Right, I'll give you another example of a shit coin that someone told me about recently. ORAI coin, whatever. We have the same thing going on here, right? We have a C, D, and then an E pattern coming, right? So yeah, wave one, A, B, C, right? There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That low, that high there made one more high above the previous high. That's A, B, C, D, E. Now take a look at this for a moment, right? And tell me, that's a pretty expanded wave 2, right? So even for wave 3 to make a new low, I mean, you can tell wave 3 is going to be pretty long. I mean, this pattern is everywhere. This is why I making this live stream. Hopefully get more people coming back that used to join my live streams in the past. Now, how low can you go before you hit zero here? I mean, for you to make anything that's resembling a proper, 5-wave move, you're going to need to make a fairly decent wave 3 here. And then you're not far away from zero. You're not far away from zero. And remember what we said about the E waves. The E waves are the ones that are the brutal ones. Usually the A, Bs, and Cs, they can be expanded somewhat. But the E waves in cryptos are the killers. And that's what we're seeing the beginning of now. We're seeing the beginning of the E wave. Why else do you think I'd short Bitcoin when it's already fallen 70+%? Because the worst is yet to come. That's my opinion, right? And I'm going to stand by it until otherwise proven wrong. All right. Now, if you tell me that out of all these 23,000 coins out there, that these coins deserve to all be in the crypto space, then I think you're somewhat mistaken by that, okay? Because a lot of these coins, they're absolute garbage. It's just a whole bunch of great ideas that really nobody needs, right? It's great. You have an idea, amazing. I don't know if you know anything about business, but a lot of ideas out there will go bust. They'll fail, and you should see the stats on starting up a business, right? They're not that great, okay? Even if you got a great idea, that will go broke very quickly, right? It doesn't matter who you sucked in to try and get you to, be successful or try to be successful. A lot of the times it fails, right? So why you say XRP go to zero? No, I'm not saying XRP is going to zero. Never said that. Right, let's talk about the XRP chart. I just put out 2 videos, one on XLM, one on XRP, right? And by the way, I said the shit coins will go to zero. Do you think that XRP is a shit coin? Maybe you think that. No, I don't think XRP will go to zero. In fact, my latest video explains that XRP between XLM and XRP actually doesn't need to fall that much in this move because it's got a different pattern completely, right? So this pattern here, like I said, truncated wave 5, if you watch that video, it explains the whole thing, right? This should have made a new high, but the SEC lawsuit prevented it from making a proper high. It's called truncation, right? But the only thing that's different between XRP and a lot of other cryptos is it's only making a wave A down, and I believe wave B will expand to the upside, right? So you'll get a lot of expansion going on in the correction. So there is nothing that's going to stop XRP from expanding to the upside in its correction, right? It's definitely going to be more stable than XLM. I believe XLM has to fall a bit lower, unfortunately. Well, it's not a bad thing. I mean, if you could scoop it up as cheap as possible, that's fine, but I'm trying to be realistic here, right? Being realistic is what I try to do the most, because a lot of my analysis sometimes can seem ridiculous. A lot of people say, oh, are you saying XLM can go 25 million%? You know, look, how high did Bitcoin go from the beginning, right? You got to think about it. How high from zero, right? From zero. And we all believe in Bitcoin now, right? We all believe in that now, right? Okay, I think that's more than 25 million% right there. Okay. Yeah. It's like what? 500 million%, right? And yet people can't believe XLM can go up 25 million. Are you serious? What is this? Favoritism. XRP, the purpose of XRP, in my opinion, it's going to replace the derivatives market. Not the derivatives market, but the underlying system that runs like Swift. It'll replace Swift, right? Settlements will happen much faster, right? In some cases, using Swift, securities can take up to 2 days to clear, right? So settlements will happen much quicker, and also, you know, payments will be settled faster, cross-border payments. Not that it's going to be its main focus. I think that its main focus is yet to be revealed, due to obviously the need for the smart contract. You know, well, Codius was the one that's supposed to be the smart contract, but I think that once the SEC lawsuit sort of blows over and people realize that, you know, this is not going away, I think they'll release or they'll unveil Codius, and then during that process, it'll just explode. That's why I believe that the correction will expand to the upside. Right now, I gave an example of this not long ago of how that correction can expand to the upside. And by the way, you know, like that underlying system is, you know, the bond market, the debt market. That's a $1 quadrillion, right? Derivatives market, right? So there's a lot of, that's where the most of the money is flowing around in the economy, right? That's where most of the value is stored in debt, obviously. XLM, I think it'll probably end up replacing the US dollar at some point, but I think it'll probably be way down the track. I think the euro, the euro, it's either heading into a massive bull run long term. And if that's the case, then, I mean, this is just probably just the beginning of the US dollar's decline. So don't quote me on that, because there's the pattern itself. You can only go out so far before you make a mistake. So not 100% on that one. But probably for the next 20, 30 years, probably doesn't have long the US dollar left, if that. But yeah, probably around, in my opinion, from looking at the euro, which I'll go to now. I don't know if Bitcoin will replace the USD, because there's something a lot more efficient and faster. And I really don't think that institutions and government, the Fed, will want to use something that's not carbon neutral, cares about the climate, that sort of thing. I think that's a big deal these days, right? If it's not environmentally friendly, then we can't use it. These are the types of things that I reckon is going to catapult XLM and XRP. They don't use the energy efficient, right? And look, there's all those reasons too, yeah. And plus, not to mention that it's much faster, right? So this is an example of when a correction has expanded to the upside, right? Back in the first wave A of Euro, the same kind of move that we're expecting, actually quite a big move. We saw wave 1, followed by A wave. See that? See that zigzag down? Right, that's a 3-wave move right there, right? And what happened to B? It went up, expanded, came back in C, retest, the high of wave 1. Normally it's not C that does it. Normally it's like wave E or something. But in this case, you can see how it went up, came back, smashed back up, it just kept going, right? I reckon that type of thing is going to happen with XRP, given the pattern, given that the only move that we've seen so far is all part of an A wave. Whereas you look at Bitcoin and you've seen already A, B, C, D, yeah, E is coming. But yeah, in XRP, you're only seeing this one pattern down so far during that same period of time. So I think that the next move up will just catapult it. It'll just smash up higher. I just have a feeling that's going to happen. Corrections unfold in certain ways, and I think that's how it's going to unfold. So, for whatever reason. So yeah, wave 1 was obviously tiny compared to what happened later. Yeah. So that move there, this is what I'm expecting in the Euro to happen soon, moving forward. Right, so this is a giant wave D up. So we have wave A, right? That move there, that length of that is what I'm expecting in the Euro soon. Right, so we have A, B, C, D, E, right? And then now we're looking for the C wave, which is that length. So that's the kind of move that I'm expecting to cause cryptos to basically moonshot it, and also the Dow Jones to go to 100,000, right? So all these things, they're all in my ideas. I post them in more detail. One thing that I like to notice about this particular wave that took me a long time to realize, even though it was right in front of me, is that this particular move that happened right before the GFC, right, this expanded D wave, right? Well, that's a D wave within a D wave, right? So you got to understand that this move that's coming now is larger than the D wave that we saw, except this time the whole thing is a D wave. So if you measure that from end to end, right, from start to finish, right, compared to that move in the middle, this is the kind of thing that will eventually unfold. And then the E wave that comes next, I believe, is the next crisis, right? That's the next crisis. And the E wave that happened from, let's say the GFC to 2022, right? It's going to pale in comparison to what's coming next, right? So I reckon there's going to be a pretty big shock crisis there. Whatever that happens, Euro is going to go down again. Whether it goes down in the same way it did here, we don't know. Yeah, we can't tell, but all in all, the larger pattern, right? If you take the larger pattern, the D wave, and then eventually the E wave, right, that will complete either a wave 4, right, up. So we don't know if this is a wave B or a wave 4. Now, given that I have some knowledge of investigating the US dollar down pattern since 1900s or whatever in the US against the Swiss franc, I'd say that the US dollar is getting close to collapse, right? So all we'd need to see is this move down in E wave, and then the last move up would collapse the US dollar. I think that'll be the bottom of the US dollar, or the way that I like to see it, the bottom in the world reserve currency, right? So whether or not we get the new world reserve currency, whatever that may be, right? Could be XLM, could be something else. I think that then we will get a bounce in the opposite direction. And then I don't know how that'll affect the markets, but I think it'll be more of the same. Potentially, I don't know. It depends. I really don't. I cannot tell you what's going to happen that far ahead. But I reckon if the XLM did replace the US dollar, I think it'd happen after the next crisis. And if it did happen after the next crisis, this may not be a wave 4. This might be a wave 2. This could be the beginning of like a whole new thing that's coming, like a whole new system that potentially keeps growing in value as human progression improves, and we actually have I suppose a currency that is good for the people and good for progress, rather than this system that is continually robbing from everybody basically and creating inflation all the time. And yeah, I don't know, it's hard to say. So yeah, in my opinion, that's the euro side. That's the short-term view. I like to talk about what comes later because I know the patterns, but what that's going to look like in reality, we don't know. I mean, look at what the E wave since 2008 looked like. That's insane, right? Well, the next one might be sharp. Who knows? I really don't know. And if it is sharp, it's probably going to be pretty bad. So it could go down in a straight line 5, straight 5 down, instead of this weak type of E wave, right? And given that the crisis that I'm expecting to come at that point in time is going to be a lot more severe, because never learned any lessons, like the world's never learned any lessons from 2008 GFC, I reckon it's going to be 10 times worse, or quite considerably worse, and then another bull market after that. It's all these booms and busts. That's what they do with inflation and interest rates. Right? They keep playing that game with people, and only the people who know how to trade it make money, right? And in this case, if you're trading cryptos, you're more than likely going to make a killing. I do believe that there will be times when you should probably cash out of cryptos, like when we get towards the top of this move. But who knows what the value of the cryptos will be by the time this move completes, right? That's the thing we don't really know. I can go ahead and try and predict moves and that, but we have to go through it to experience it. So basically, that's what I wanted to talk about the most. In terms of other coins, like, I don't know, I'll have a look at Dogecoin. I haven't really had the chance to go through that. I was going to start producing, oops, if I can spell, Doge, let's look at Qcoin. Oh, that's the worst. Binance. Jesus. Cracking. Seriously, do we have any half decent? There we go. Well, although I think this Dogecoin has been around a lot longer. I suppose this is a good example here. I mean, look at that. How much has that fallen from the highs? 92%. Jesus Christ. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. It's almost the same ABC scenario D, right? I mean, is that not getting ready to tank right now? it's the same thing. I'd short this. Really, I'd short it. I mean, I can't be bothered shorting it, but seriously though, it's got the D pattern, right? If you look at it close up, right, you can see a one. What else can I say? Hang on, let's have a look. Is it A, B, C, D, E? I don't think so. So it's A, B, C, and then it's definitely got a pretty big wave C. It could be A, B, C. I don't know if that's D though. I don't think there's a D there. I think that maybe D is in progress, right? Never made a new high above that. So here could be A, the B wave, and probably get C in a bounce. If we get C in a bounce, so I reckon we'll see something like this. Well, basically the same length, roughly the same length as this. Something like from here. I think that might have been a DE there and then it started. So something like this, probably could go down, get a bounce back to the start. So basically wave one here. And then I think that'll be like wave two, right? Because there's always the corrections, typically E wave comes back to the end of wave one. And then I think we'll get a smackdown after that. Like, because you got to think, right? For something that's made that kind of 5-wave move since 2020 to 2021, right? That 5-wave move is still significant to some extent. If this is a wave one for Doge, for example, right? Not going to hate on it. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that this is wave one and Dogecoin is going to be part of the future, right? You've still got to see something that goes back to the previous wave four, right? And I think I've seen the Dogecoin chart from a while back. It goes up 5 waves and it was worth peanuts back in 2015 and 16 or something. And even so, you'd have to go back to previous wave four, right? Yes, it's insane. Does that mean a collapse though? It could mean that. I mean, if you look at some of these charts that produce this type of move, right? They just fall off a cliff. It's literally like a collapse. It's like an FTT token collapse, right? Probably not the best example there, but yeah, like this, right? You get the corrective pattern, then you get a move down. Now, obviously that collapsed for a reason, right? But in general, like, you know, you can see that fall off a cliff like that. It's not uncommon, right? And whether or not, whatever the reason may be, right? I mean, cryptos have shown me some of the worst collapses that I've seen. You know, aside from the Euro Swiss move that happened that one time when the peg broke, it looked very similar to this. I don't know if you've ever seen that, the Euro Swiss 2015, right? It's just an example of when this happens, right? This type of thing can happen in any chart on any market. It doesn't have to be crypto, right? But even that pattern there is part of the wave structure. It's a 4 and a 5, right? You peg something, it still manages to create the pattern, right? That I use to analyze markets, right? Here you had a zigzag up, A, B, C, D, E to some point, weak E maybe, and then complete collapse. That's an impulsive move, whatever it's called, whether it's a collapse or not, it's still an impulsive move, right? Some happen before others, but it always happens, right? That's the whole point. You know, these things aren't unique to cryptos. So basically that's it, unless there's something else. you know, coming down to the small degree, I suppose, with XLM, you know, like what are we doing here, right? I mean, this is just the beginning of wave 3, in my opinion. So like an example of how good AriasWave is that I picked this top by simply analyzing this as a wave A, right? Using the methodology. This is not a 5-wave move, right? Otherwise, how the hell did I pick that top? Right? I started calling short right here, right? And then it went down, and I expected to keep going down. How did I do that? Well, it wasn't really hard. Just look at wave A, internals, complete, and then a 3-wave move followed by a C wave that didn't make a new high. So it can't be wave 5. This can't be wave 4 because it's just a zigzag, right? A correction is not just a zigzag, right? Elliott wave will make you think that, but this is not Elliott wave, right? And then you got a wave D. Well, what makes that a wave D? I'll show you, right? I'll show you, right? If you look at that move right there, that's a zigzag move right there, right? So when you're expecting a wave D, this whole thing could have been a wave D, right? Except this would have had to be 5 waves right there, right? The fact that it was a zigzag told me, well, that's a small wave D, isn't it? Whatever, go with it. We got 5 waves up in a weak 5-wave move. And then what did I do? Well, when it broke the low, it confirmed that that was what I was looking at. And that's it. I say I'm short, right? Price came down and it never went above that red line, right? Look at that. What does that tell you? It means that AriasWave works, right? Same thing with Bitcoin recently. There's a different pattern, right? It's the pattern in Bitcoin recently wasn't a zigzag wave A, B, C, D. It was just a 5-wave move for E, right? There was a difference in the move up in Bitcoin and XLM, right? The difference is that I identified each wave with a particular level which can be used as resistance, right? In this particular pattern, there is no resistance. The resistance was created at a small degree from the wave E break. That created the resistance right there. But the same is true for any wave that comes after the top anyway. And Bitcoin moved down, just got to count wave 1, and then the end of wave 2, and that's it. It's done. Right? It's as simple as that. I mean, it's not as simple as that. It takes a lot of practice, but that's how simple it can be if you know the waves. So I suppose that's just what it comes down to at the end of the day. Yeah, so don't know what else there is here. Don't think there's much more unless someone wants to suggest something. Hopefully people can start coming back to these live streams like we used to do. Yeah, right now I'm just waiting for it to turn over. Yeah, right. So I suppose this is like a glorified, AriasWave video, just gone around and checked on different markets, explaining my view, explaining, what I expect to come next. Wave E is going to be pretty bad, except with XLM, it's not a wave E, right? It's a wave C for XLM, right? Because the first move down, you could say, oh yeah, it's comparable to XRP's wave A, except XRP's wave A hasn't finished yet. Had a B wave bounce, very small looking thing, right? But then we started on this, 1-2-1-2 pattern. Wave C looks like it's going to take XLM down, right? Which is different than a lot of other charts as well, which is interesting. Like we just looked at like SHIB, that's following Bitcoin. We looked at basically Dogecoin, that's following sort of Bitcoin, right? But you look at XLM, it's not following Bitcoin in the same way, and it's not really following XRP in the same way. Like it's in wave C. In my opinion, it's in wave C, right? And why is it in wave C, right? What's coming after wave C? I think that potentially we're going to see a D wave bounce, maybe could even be impulsive, could be expanded, right? It could expand to the upside. Right, and if we do get that type of expansion, right, it may not be like B wave like XRP, but it'll be wave D, right? If we do go as low as the previous wave 4, which would be absolutely insane if we did, right? We could go to the previous March 2020 low. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, no pun intended. But seriously though, if we did see an expanded D wave, we could see anything like that go, just make this explode up, right? Explode up, which might even be in line with what happens with XRP, right? Except not a B wave, but a D wave. Either way, it's a 3-wave move, right? B wave and D waves are the only waves that go up 3 waves. And then come back down somewhat, who knows, when the next crash comes, and then continue higher, right? It'll just step up and up and up, right? Yeah, it's crazy. Don't believe everything I say, right? But you look at the XLM BTC chart and it starts to sort of come together and make sense a little bit, right? Eventually, because you got to think about it, right? All these coins are starting off in a wave 1-2, right? Okay, Bitcoin is far ahead in wave 2 of wave 3, and XLM might be in wave 2, just in wave 2, right? So what happens when we go up, 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 right? There's no telling what happens up there because the moves are going to be so much bigger than what you've seen so far. So to me, that's how I see it. So I'll probably leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.